Okay, I'm here to tell you about my journey with creativity, my beliefs about creativity, which I think you would do very well to adopt. I'm here to tell you about what I've learned about creativity from my gurus, Tony Buzan. Tony Buzan is the inventor of MindMaps, and he's officially the most creative man on the planet. And also from Chris Griffiths, another creativity guru who is the author of a book called Grasp, Kill Ideas. Now, I've split up this talk into three parts, and that's why I call it the creativity triptych. The first part is why you should think about creativity as oxygen. And I've chosen oxygen very deliberately because we can live without food for 30 days and without water for 7 days, but we cannot live without oxygen for even 5 minutes. And I'm absolutely surprised that plenty of people need to adopt that belief. I think we're seeing it all around us. I think we're seeing it all around us that we need to think of creativity as oxygen, otherwise you're going to perish. I mean, think of just three names that I'm going to put in front of you. One is the Remington. Remington was the market leader in typewriters. It just lost out and couldn't see that computers would overtake that market and became bankrupt. The second very, very big name that I can think of is Kodak. And Kodak couldn't see digital photography coming and was wiped out, became bankrupt. And the third name is something that's in the news less than a month ago, and that's Reader's Digest. Reader's Digest is bankrupt. I mean, think of these guys. These guys had big brands. They had a lot of money at some time. They had apparently smart people, smart advisors, and they still went bankrupt. It's because they were just not creative. They could not paint the darkness themselves. And if somebody else was painting the darkness, they didn't know how to respond to that. And that's what creativity allows you to do. In fact, you have to get it to do it for you. Now, these are three instances of the past. I want to just throw in front of you some things that can happen in the future. For that, I want to throw some ideas which are propounded by a gentleman called Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil is an author. He is a scientist, an inventor, a futurist. He's made lots of predictions about the future, and he's had an alarming rate of accuracy. So just two of his predictions which have come correct by the date that he predicted they would come correct is, one, he predicted the end of the Cold War. And that happened. He predicted that a computer would beat a human being in chess. And that happened. And when he made those predictions, everybody laughed. And after those things actually happened, people said, oh, of course, what's great about that? And that's what many people think post facto. So he's made a prediction that by 2029, computers will have consciousness. Isn't that crazy? By 2029, computers will pass the Turing Test. The Turing Test is a test named after Alan Turing, the inventor of the computer, where you have a human being here and you have something behind a curtain. And the human being is interacting with that something behind a curtain, and he thinks he's interacting with a human being, whereas it's actually a computer. So if the computer can convince that person that he's interacting with a human being, then that computer is said to have passed the Turing test. 2029, not very far away. So if computers can double up as human beings, plenty of people would obviously want computers working for them rather than people working for them. Imagine the implications on your jobs. Imagine the implications on society. Imagine the kind of world we'll be living in. It could be a separate PhD topic by itself. Another prediction, and why go anywhere else when I have Ray Kurzweil to fall back on? Another prediction by Ray Kurzweil is that by 2045, 2045, very, very close by, we will reach a stage, we will reach a level of evolution of technology where we'll have a lot of biological parts inside us, obviously like we currently do, but we'll have lots of technological parts also. Because of which, if we survive till 2045, we have a chance of living indefinitely or living forever. Okay, this is serious business. This is a scientist. He's not some mumbo-jumbo guy. Just imagine, plenty of people are talking about scarcity of resources today. So what's going to happen post 2045? And of course, think of the positive implications also, not just the negative implications. And a third example is something that's very, very close by, that's Google Glass. I mean, imagine having a virtual reality kind of headset 24/7. You got a complete screen in front of you, which is activated by voice. So everybody gets a chance to become Iron Man and pass on commands to Jarvis. So that's the first part. If by this time you're not convinced that creativity is like oxygen, I'm sure the people who are convinced appreciate the lack of competition. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the second part. The second part is, how are we doing on creativity as a planet? And we are doing pathetically. There are some research facts that I'm going to throw up which are absolutely astonishing. So the first one is a research conducted by NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, where they got a team of psychologists who evaluated people in different life stages and found out what percentage of their creative potential are they actually using. The first was KG children. Second was junior school, senior school, university, and adults. So just take a guess in your mind, since I'm not allowed to interact with you, take a guess what it was for KG children. What percentage of the creative potential are they using? They were using 95% plus of the creative potential. Junior school guys, 75%. Senior school guys, 50%. University students, welcome to the shocking figures there, is 25%. And adults is 10%. And isn't it shocking that adults teach KG children? Now, this is normal. At the same time, it's not natural. The figures can be tweaked by deliberate practice, as long as people believe that they can do it. So that's one. The second research, and this is a part of Tony Buzan's books, is a paperclip test. So a paperclip creativity test is given to a large number of people. They are suggested to come up with all the ideas they can think of for a paperclip, given an infinite amount of time. Okay, that's absolutely critical. There's no time bar, you got no stress, you got no tension. Just take your time, think of all the ideas, think of all the things that you can do with a paperclip. Go all out. Take a quick guess as to what was the average number of ideas that those guys came up with. The average number of ideas that a large number of people came up with for users of paperclip, given an infinite amount of time, was between 20. That's it. It's not, there's no 20,000 or something else. It's just 20. It's 20. Between 20 to 30. And that's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? It should have been 20 to 30 every minute or something of that sort, or every few minutes. But that is the pitiful state of creativity on the planet. And I also want to quote what the Economist, one of the most venerable, one of the most independent views holding publication in the world, has to say about creativity. And one of the recent covers had a Rodin's thinker sitting on a toilet. Okay, that was on the cover. And the caption was, "Will we ever invent something this useful again?" So their opinion of the creativity of the human race is so poor that they think nobody is going to invent something as useful as a toilet again. And there have been facts and figures about how we're not doing well on creativity, how productivity increases, and lots of other positive benchmarks are just not being met the way they were being met, say, probably 10, maybe 20 years ago. And Peter Thiel has been quoted in that issue of Economist. Peter Thiel is the founder of PayPal and the first outside investor of Facebook. And he says creativity right now is between dire straits and dead. Dire straits and dead are his exact words. Now, the thing is, there is obviously a reason why we're not very good at creativity. There are natural inclinations of the brain. One thing is the brain weighs just 2% of the body weight. At the same time, in terms of energy, it consumes about 20% of body weight. And when we were cavemen, we didn't have too much energy. We didn't have too much food to supply us a lot of energy. So the message that the brain sent to the brain was, don't think, because we don't have too much energy, and we need to preserve the energy for other body systems. Well, now you got to tell your brain that there's so much food that most people have a problem with fat. And that's not a problem anymore. So the brain is a fantastic organ in some ways. In some ways, it's like a dumb child. It doesn't even recognize the fact that a lot of evolution is taking place and plenty of things have changed. And to quote another big thinker on creativity, Edward E. Bono, the founder, the father of lateral thinking, and a person whose contribution to human thinking has been recognized to such an extent that he has a planet named after him. So he says, one of the purposes of thinking is to abolish thinking. Now, sounds like a silly statement, but it really makes a lot of sense, because when you tie a shoelace, for the first time, you're struggling, you're finding out how to do it. And once you do it 2 or 3 times, then your brain sets up a pattern. It sets up a neural pathway so that you don't have to think every time you tie a shoelace. That's why the brain is a pattern-making machine. So it makes a lot of sense that the main purpose of thinking is to abolish thinking. At the same time, though it has benefits, you have to break that pattern every now and then if you want to be creative, because creativity is like oxygen. So that's the second part. Now the third part is, some of you are probably thinking of what Dale Carnegie said. Any fool can carp, criticize, and cavil, and most fools do. So that's why I'm not going to stop there, because I'm not a fool. I'm going to suggest how you can boost your creativity. And there'll be general guidelines, because I don't have time to really get into too many techniques. But one of the major things is that you've got to believe something that's backed up by science, that creativity is not a gift. It is not something that some people have and other people don't. It's not a genetic gift. It's not that it cannot be a genetic gift. It can be a genetic gift. There can be people who are naturally more creative than the rest of us. But if you want to achieve that level of creativity, it is achievable. There are lots of tools, lots of techniques out there, lots of strategies out there which you can use to improve your creativity. Now, you've got to believe that. Because you can know information, and if you don't feel that information to be true, you don't believe in it with every cell of your body, it's just not going to happen. So you can go for 1 million seminars, you can read 1 million books on creativity, but if you don't believe that, it doesn't vibrate in every part of your body, in every part of your brain, it's not going to happen. So I strongly suggest that you look at concepts like mind mapping, you look at concepts like lateral thinking, and there are plenty of other great guys out there doing great stuff. Look at that. Go to seminars, read books, have interactions, see YouTube videos, see TED videos, and then make a schedule where you spend as little as 1 minute a day on creativity. Okay, it could be as small as that. Daniel Coyle, a very prominent author, who's written a book called The Talent Code, and another very short version of that book called The Little Book of Talent, says that if people had the option of practicing a skill for 1 hour in a week, and versus that they had the option of practicing the same skill for 5 minutes a day every week, most people think they should do it for 1 hour a week. But latest research says that that doesn't work. This works much better. Why? Because if you do something for 1 minute a day or 2 or 3 minutes a day, it becomes a habit. And that's something that's going to be very, very critical, because once you have that habit, habits are very difficult to break. So that's something that I strongly recommend you to do. And I also recommend you to spend time with yourself with these strategies, thinking about how you're going to solve your problems, or generally thinking how to become better, become more successful. But do it in an environment which is absolutely bereft of people So you got to spend some time alone with yourself and bereft of technology like mobile phones and like laptops. Okay. Now you can be in front of people and you can say, oh, I am very creative even when I'm in front of people. You can make all sorts of assertions, but research has proved that when you're with people, you get influenced by those people. You get influenced by their thought processes, and that restricts your creativity. So by all means, be creative with people. Be creative with people around you and generate ideas with people around you, but do it first yourself alone. And even just having a mobile around you and having a laptop around you is a serious distraction. Okay, so that is the third picture. And I want to conclude by 2 words, which I learned again from Tony Buzan, which in Latin mean, may your brain cells flourish. And those 2 words are floriant dendrite. Thank you.